Amara was a black waitress at Sunrise Diner, and she had no idea that on one fateful day, she would make a decision that involved standing up for Steph Curry. Amara was working her usual evening shift at Sunrise Diner, a cozy restaurant in Oakland, California. For her, this wasn't just a job. It was a place where she knew every regular and had memorized their orders. Her warm smile and attentive service made everyone feel welcome. But tonight, everything was about to change. The bell above the door jingled, and as Amara looked up, she froze. It wasn't just any customer. Standing there was none other than Steph Curry, the NBA superstar, the face of the Golden State Warriors. It was Steph Curry, the Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors, a globally celebrated athlete whose name echoed in every corner of Oakland. Dressed casually in a hoodie and sneakers, Steph looked unassuming, but it was impossible for someone like him to go unnoticed. The room grew quiet as customers whispered, trying to confirm if it was really him. Amara quickly composed herself and approached his table. "Welcome to Sunrise Diner," she said. "What can I get for you tonight?" Steph smiled. "A black coffee and a slice of pie, please." "Coming right up," Amara replied, hiding her nerves behind her usual professionalism. As she prepared his order, she noticed Steph quietly observing the room. The diner buzzed with murmurs, the presence of such a famous figure electrifying the air. From a corner table, the sound of a chair scraping broke the moment. Earl, a regular and Sacramento Kings fan, stood and walked toward Steph's table. Earl was never one to shy away from speaking his mind, and Steph Curry was the perfect target. "Aren't you that basketball guy, Steph Curry? I've read about you," Earl said, crossing his arms. Steph looked up. "Yes, that's me. You make millions, but what do you actually do for folks who need it? Heard you're pretty stingy with all that cash." The diner fell silent. Steph replied evenly, "I try to help where I can. Scholarships, disaster relief, building basketball courts for kids." Earl scoffed. "Sounds like PR. Do you really think that makes a difference?" Amara, clearing a nearby table, couldn't stay silent. She walked over. "That's not true, Earl. Steph Curry has done more than most people could dream of. He's given scholarships to students, donated to disaster relief, and supported mental health programs. Actions speak louder than words." Earl turned to her. "You really believe that? How do you know it's not for show?" Amara stood her ground. "Because the people he's helped are real. He doesn't have to do any of it, but he does because he cares." The diner grew quiet as everyone watched. Steph gave Amara a grateful look, but the silence was broken by a stern voice from the kitchen. "Amara, can I see you for a second?" said Mr. Walters, the diner's owner. Amara hesitated, glancing at Steph before heading toward the counter. She couldn't shake the feeling that this conversation would change everything. Amara walked to the counter where Mr. Walters, the diner's owner, stood with crossed arms. His tense expression made it clear this wouldn't go well. "Amara," Walters said, "what was that back there? You can't argue with customers, and especially regulars like Earl." "Mr. Walters, Earl was being unfair. Steph Curry didn't deserve that, and I couldn't stay silent." Walters sighed. "I get it, but this is a business. Guys like Earl keep this place running. You've got to pick your battles. I can't afford to lose customers over this." Amara felt a knot in her chest. "So it's okay for someone to insult others as long as they're regulars? You need to let me handle these things." "This isn't your fight," Walters replied sharply. Amara bit her tongue and nodded, though it didn't feel right. Back in the dining area, Steph watched her with quiet concern. Earl sat at his table, grumbling. The tension in the room was thick. "Is there anything else I can get for you?" Amara asked Steph, keeping her voice steady. "No, I'm good. But thank you for what you said earlier." "You didn't have to do that," Steph said warmly. "I just couldn't stay quiet. Earl's comments weren't fair." Steph smiled. "It meant a lot. Not everyone would have spoken up." The bell jingled as new customers entered, breaking the moment. Amara turned back to her work, but Steph's words stayed with her. Was she wrong to speak up? The evening settled down. Earl left without further trouble, and Steph lingered a little longer, sipping his coffee and watching the street. When he finally rose, he approached the counter. "Amara, you're a good person. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise," he said. "Thank you," she replied softly. She watched him leave, his presence still lingering. Just as the night calmed, Walters reappeared. "Amara, we need to talk before you leave." Her stomach tightened. "Is something wrong?" "We'll talk later," Walters said, vanishing into the kitchen. As the last customers left, Amara cleaned the tables, her mind racing. Was she about to lose her job for defending someone? When the diner emptied, she walked into the kitchen. Walters stood with his arms folded. I've thought about tonight. While I respect your loyalty, this isn't a place where employees take sides with customers. I can't risk losing people like Earl. Amara's heart sank. You're letting me go. Walters nodded, guilt flickering in his eyes. I'll give you a good reference, but yes, it's best we part ways. Amara froze. After years of pouring her heart into this job, it was over. Blinking back tears, she nodded. Thank you for the opportunity. Stepping into the cool night air, Amara felt the weight of what had happened. She had lost her job, but deep down, she knew standing up for what was right mattered more. Still, the uncertainty of what came next loomed over her. The next morning, Amara woke with a heavy heart. The weight of the previous night still lingered. Sunrise Diner had been her safe haven, a place she belonged. Now she had no idea what would come next. Taking a deep breath, she dressed and prepared to collect her final paycheck. As she approached the diner, a sleek black SUV parked outside caught her attention. Its polished exterior stood out against the modest surroundings. Amara furrowed her brow in confusion. Who could it be? Taking another breath, she stepped inside. The diner was quieter than usual, the few customers speaking in hushed tones. In a booth near the back sat Steph Curry. Casually dressed, his relaxed posture still carried an undeniable presence. Amara's stomach flipped. Why was he here? Amara, Steph said as she entered, standing to greet her. His warm smile eased her nerves. I was hoping to catch you before you left. Her mind raced as she tried to process why one of the world's most famous athletes was waiting for her. Is everything okay? She asked cautiously. Steph nodded. It is. I just couldn't stop thinking about last night. The way you stood up for me, it showed courage. Most people wouldn't have done that. Amara flushed. I just did what I thought was right. Earl's comments weren't fair. And that's why I'm here, Steph said. I want to offer you an opportunity. An opportunity? She echoed. Steph gestured for her to sit, and she slid into the booth. My foundation is expanding, he explained. We're starting new programs for kids in underprivileged communities. Education, sports, mentorships. But to make it happen, we need people with heart. People like you. Amara blinked, stunned. You're serious? Completely, Steph replied. We need someone who stands up for what's right and cares about making a difference. Amara couldn't speak. Questions filled her mind. Could she do this? Did she have what it took? Deep down, a small spark of hope flickered. Maybe losing her job wasn't the end. It was the start of something bigger. What do you think? Steph asked, watching her reaction. Amara swallowed hard. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Steph said, grinning. A laugh escaped her lips and tears welled in her eyes. Yes, she said softly, then louder. Absolutely, yes. Steph shook her hand, sealing the deal. Welcome to the team, he said warmly. The sound of the doorbell broke the moment as a customer entered, but Amara barely noticed. Her mind was already racing with thoughts of her new chapter. For the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful. As Steph left, he turned back to her. You've got this, Amara, he said before walking out into the sunlight. Amara sat still, letting it all sink in. She didn't know where this path would lead, but for the first time, she felt ready to embrace the unknown. Do you think Amara deserved to be fired for standing up for Steph Curry? Or was her boss unfair in his decision? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.